Good evening, one and all, and welcome to the RSCast for the Week 8 recap. You may notice something a little bit different. I myself have joined the RSCast the first and hopefully not last time I'll be here. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. I've answered the call, and it's good to do it. Unfortunately, usurping Buddha's position, but he's still here alongside us. So we've got him, and of course, as always, Sennji alongside me as well. So it's my first time doing this, lads. Take it easy on me. I'm probably going to make a few mistakes, but I'm hoping that both of you can guide me through it with some grace and some style.
That's fine. My first time was let's just say it was nowhere near. It probably wasn't even average. It was pretty bad, but I'm sure you do a lot better. And obviously, we got Sennji as well, so it's gonna be a great night.
We do have Sennji. It's lovely to be here. And how are you feeling, Sennji, about the week's recap?
Oh, feeling good. Looking forward to see what teams have performed well and which ones maybe haven't this week.
As am I, and we should get straight into it, as always, of course, starting in the lowest tier in our league, the Prospect Division, looking at some of these results. I think I'm going to start with you, Buddha, ones that you've picked out in Prospect, some wins for Xeno, Alter, Icicle going a 2-2 there as well. What are the ones that have stood out for you most in the Week 8?
Yeah, we got Xeno and Terra. For Xeno, this was a big result for them for their standing situation. It kind of builds that little comfortable lead in the play-ins, and losing 3-1. But Game 4, Terra came out of nowhere and just won 6-4. The Game 4 was a goal galore, but obviously Xeno did close that one out. And Alter against Micah Faction. Obviously, this is your first, second place team, but Alter getting a 3-1 win, but it's not just any ordinary win. This was with their sub Gem. They grabbed a win onto second with Gem, and he was also the highest point per game player in the lobby as well. So it's a big week from them. And then obviously they got the other victory as well, getting the 3-1 onto Prelude, I believe. Yes, with an FA. So it was a big week for Alter. And then finally, I picked out Icicle and Tartarus. For the people that saw this on stream, this was a great series. I'm pretty sure we saw a player from each side maybe go for a potential clip of the week. We might see that later. We never know. But this was such a close series. Anyone could have taken it. Every single game was a 1-goal difference. And the games that Tartarus won were actually both OTs. So this is a very close series to watch on stream.
Quite a showdown going on in Glacis. Mentioning some of those, and Alter, such dominant performance, even with their super sub coming in, and as you said, getting those high point scoring games and cementing their place at the top of Glacis Prospect. Going on to the other side, Sennji, over in Ignis, heating up a little bit. Anything that you can tell us about this that might prick our ears, get our attention?
Absolutely. I mean, we've had Pluton last week with a stellar performance, getting 4 games versus top 1 and 2. This week they've again done a very solid week. They've went 5-3 versus Fearless Echo and Underworld, solidifying themselves versus direct contrahents for those play-in spots and kind of getting a little bit of a caution to those opponents. And a game that's definitely also surprised me a little bit, or that was definitely exciting to see, is Exelon taking down Caro 3-1 and kind of creating a little bit of a gap between second and third. And then we have, I think, the biggest surprise this week by Overturn taking down Underworld 3-1. I know this wasn't a surprise, but at least leveling out the games. Wasn't the wrong tier in my head.
It may be for some, it may be a surprise for some, but yeah, it's crazy how hot that is. That 6th space is still entirely up for grabs, 5th to 8th, all on 31 game wins, all to play for in the final week. Just 8 games left remaining, and of course we can see just how that might shake up as we go over to the fixtures. Looking at this, are there any that stand out for you, Buddha, that might have a massive effect on the final week and what teams can actually make it into those spots going into playoffs and play-ins?
It's going to be quite a lot of big series, as we're heading into that very last week of league play. And wait, hold on, are we up on the standings right now?
Yes.
Oh, the overall standings. There's the first mistake. We've got it. I got it. It's not the fixtures. The standings themselves. We saw the results, and then we get to the standings. But yeah, as we were talking about, Alter going up such a high position, really securing their place at the top of the pile. But it's still quite close down there in the spots for play-ins.
Oh, for sure. We've got Ulta, the only team in the Glaciers Conference. They've won all 5 of their series, and obviously now on an 8-game lead in first position. Obviously, Micah Faction in second, 3 games ahead of third and fourth, who are tied. So it's very close in that top 4 fight. But that's not where it's only close. We also see it down Majors, Icicle, and Hot Metal. Only 4 games from Hot Metal to Majors separating themselves. So it's a very close run for them, fighting for the top 6. Then we got Terra, Limousine, and Prelude all on those 24 games, 3-way tie. I'll see, mathematically, they can get to 32 wins, but the possibility is pretty low because Icicle, they just need a game. But, I mean, it's crazy, Vekta, how close this really is this season for play-ins.
It absolutely is, and I think I was taking a look at the playoff hunt thing that Yannick whipped up, and I believe this is the only tier, the only conference, in fact, the other conference, Ignis, the only one where every single team still has a potential chance of making play-ins, of getting to that 6th spot. But as you said, entirely depends on other results, on Icicle's ability to clutch out even one game, which is absolutely insane. But even more insane, on the other side, Sennji, we look at the Ignis standings, and you already mentioned it a little bit about how Overturn and Underworld might have been a surprising result for some, but because of that, it's made it such a much more exciting situation going into the final week.
Absolutely. I mean, we have a very good lead at the top with Cardinals and Exelon, who are kind of a little bit away from the pack. And Cardinal and Pluton have been able to separate themselves a little bit from this 4-way tie. And I would bet all my money that two out of those 4 teams, yeah, it's not much. Two out of those 4 teams are going to make play-ins. I couldn't think of anyone on who to bet, who would be the right choice. But to be honest, I think neither Oxygen nor Istok will be able to come back. Istok being the first team to be confirmed out of the play-in run. They will not be able to clinch that. And we also don't have a confirmed playoffs yet in this tier.
Yeah, it's very interesting, and as we expect from the Ignis conference, eating up and giving us a show going into the final week especially, is what we love to see. What we'd also love to see is how these next few matches are going to shake out. 8 points left to play for, as I said, and the fixtures for the prospect tier in the final week. Anything that stands out to you, Buddha? Ones that we might expect, the obvious results, or are there any potential upsets that we might see?
Yeah, I can already see here, we see Icicle and Micah Faction. Obviously, Icicle, beginning of the season, they were seen as a pretty top-sided team, a pretty strong team, but recently their results have been going downhill a little bit, but we know they've still got that, in their locker, they are a good-sided team, and obviously for the standings, this is a crucial game for them, especially playing against a second-place team, so they've got to bring their A game, and also Micah Faction, they get to play Zeno as well, a team that has kind of risen up, won 3 of their series in their last 5 games, back-to-back, so that'll be a good matchup. Either way, Micah Faction, they've got a pretty tough week. Not going to be easy for them. But also looking at here, Alta, this is to kind of claim their first place. And they play Hot Metal and Majors. So they're probably going to get games secured there. But you never know. They might go 0-8. You never know. But they've got big sub gems. So I don't think anything too upset is going to happen. But other than that, if you really think about it, all of these games are so crucial just because of this play and run that this Glaciers Conference has in the prospect tier.
Without a doubt, every result matters, not just to each individual team, but to the table as a whole and how it might shape up, how the picture may be painted. Speaking of, on the other side, Sennji, Ignis, are we expecting to see anything different?
No, not at all. I think the most interesting matches this week are 100% going to be the matches for especially those 4-pack of 31 games, where we have a matchup between Fearless Echo and Overturn. We've got a matchup between Luna Oberon and Underworld. We've got Luna Oberon versus Fearless Echo, etc. And I think those games are really those games that are going to stand out this week. Yes, if you look at what Cardinals is going to face, they are going to play second and third, being first themselves, but I'm going to be looking more forward to those playing deciding games. They're going to be way more interesting, I feel.
As am I. It's one of those things. I think a lot of people They watch the title battle, as it were, but there's also the relegation scrap that can really get your adrenaline pumping and your heart rate up. So I'll love to see how that one plays out. That will be it for the prospect tier. Clambering on up into the challengers, we see some of the results from week 8. Anything to stand out, bud, or is it just business as usual for Glaciers?
It's always business as usual, but I picked out here Parthenes versus Zyron, the 3-1 victory. And obviously they got that victory, but if we go in depth with it, Parthenes had 32 shots compared to 15 for Zyrons, but there was only 7 goals for Parthenes and 4 for Zyron. So there was so much shooting back to back, but the defense was so strong in this series. And for the table, this was a pretty crucial game, and Parthenes getting this victory kind of closed down a gap a little bit, but obviously we'll see how that affects later on. But also, I did pick out another result here, was Pyromancers getting the 3-1 onto Glacier. Glacier, just a couple weeks ago, they were unbeaten all season. Then they started to, drop some L's, but Pyromancers getting the 3-1 onto second place is a very strong result. Kind of shows that little bit of a dominance on top of the table. And we've got Nolaren getting 534 points per game, so he had a superb series. And then finally, I picked out Shrine going 2-2 onto Glacier, and also getting that 3-1 onto Zyron, showing that they can battle those teams within that top 4. And we see all these teams kind of getting their results out, like the Zuko gang, 3-1 onto Orcus, and that 2-2 onto Chorus, kind of solidifying in that playing position for now.
Yeah, it does look like Glacier, as though, despite the fact they started out so strong, struggling now, and it just shows you need longevity throughout the entirety of the season. Still not in a completely secure place up there in third, and we'll be battling to get back into those top 2 spots. But I see a couple teams maybe trying to fight something of their own over on Ignis, Sennji. Is there anything you could tell me about this conference?
Oh, there's a lot I could tell you about this conference. It's been a very interesting week, and especially at the top, I think there's been some games we wouldn't have expected to come out this way. We've had Fearless Delta have a direct matchup versus their counterpart in tied second place, and they tied it. They kept it at this tied state of their second place when it comes to the games. Then Fearless Delta had the on paper harder opponent in facing versus Cerberus, and we've seen that game yesterday on stream. We've seen the overall game yesterday on stream, my bad. But that game versus Cerberus, obviously you go face first place team who is 10 games or so ahead of you in the standings. They've lost it, happens, but what is frightening to look at in the stat line for Fearless Delta at the moment, that was the 4th game without a win in series, and playoffs are in just a week. I hope for you, Buddha, that they'll be able to come back and start winning again when it comes to play-ins. But then, on the other hand, we've got Overrule, who've had, on paper, the easier game versus Crusaders, and they also lost 3-1. So both of these teams going with the exact same week, losing a little bit of ground to the consecutive teams in the table, but definitely staying on top of each other when it comes to that. And then I think the surprise I meant before, no, still not this one. Which tier was that? But we've got Arcus beating Mosai, which definitely surprised me at least a little bit, but definitely gave Arcus a little bit of a chance to climb back into this play-in race.
As they say, once is a fluke, twice is coincidence, and thrice is a pattern. And it seems to be the one developing here for the upper teams in the Challenger conferences. Glacier started out with that, and now overall in Fearless Delta, I can literally hear but gritting his teeth through my ears, and just feeling that pain. I know how it feels, mate. Not as a GM, as a player, but it's a similar situation, I should imagine. They're still pretty strong, but it's going to be tenuous going into the final week for them. As we move on to the standings themselves to show us exactly how Glaciers is shaking out, how it looks going into these last 8 games, and whether or not any of them can actually make it to that playing spot. I mean, they all look up for grabs, Butter.
Yeah, and yet again, we've got another team who in first have won all 5 of their last series. It's the one and only Pyromancers. Only 4 games ahead, though, of second and third, Shrine and Glacier, only trailing a little bit behind. So, a very good week. They still, have the possibility for that playoff spot. Same with Parthenes and, they could even pop off into that top 2, but it's going to be a big mix-up for these 4 teams heading into the last week. But we've got Zyron, Nezuko Gang, kind of separated a little bit here, and from that we'll see these teams below Neptunium, Apprentices, Chorus, and Orcus can't really find their way into that top 6 spot, but Neptunium, Apprentices, these are teams who could take games off these top teams and maybe shake the table up a little bit for that seeding. But either way, the top 4 is going to be the main focus heading into this last week, because this could really shake up.
And you were talking about that shootout between Parthenai and Zeron. I was looking at the goal difference. Zeron have got a ridiculously high goal difference. I'd expect a shootout from them, a lot of goals scored, but Parthenai were able to match that with the shot counter and gave them a chance to secure maybe 3rd place or maybe even 2nd going into the final week. But yeah, as that shakes down for Glacis, we hop on over to Ignis, and Sennji will tell us all about whether or not some of these teams can stand up to the heat that's necessary or get out of the kitchen.
I mean, when we look at the top here, one team that we don't really need to discuss, but that hasn't quite confirmed first place yet, is Cerebros. They are currently 8 games ahead of Overrule. I'm not sure how the head-to-head standings work, but I'd say it's pretty certain they're going to be number 1. And after that, it gets interesting. We've got kind of the duel for 2nd place between Overrule and Fearless Delta, but with their performance last week, Masai starts to look threatening for them. They're only 2 games off, and who knows if Fearless Delta and Overrule continue with their not so good performance lately. Maybe Masai comes out swooping and taking that playoff spot. Then a little bit lower, we've got a very interesting 5-way matchup for the play-in spots, for 2 of those play-in spots. We've got Helium, Arcus, Crusader, Scion, and Scorn all in between. 3 games. Obviously for Scorn and Scion it looks the most hard to achieve, but all of those teams have the capabilities and the possibilities to do so. And sadly, we have yet another team that is confirmed to not make play-ins.
It's unfortunate to see Lunar Atlas. Nothing left to play for except maybe upsets. They can try and decide who will actually get to make those playing spots or playoff spots. You never know. Just notice 2nd to 9th, 8-game difference, which is, as close as you like. It's going to be an interesting one to watch. Very similar to Prospect, Ignis as well, with how close they are. But moving on over to the fixtures list for next week, or this week even, to tell us just exactly how these could shake out. I'm going to go over to you, Butter.
As we see here, Neptunium sitting in that 7th position, 2 games behind the play-in spot. But they've got to face up Shrine, who are in 2nd place. So that's going to be a tough matchup for them. But taking any games could be very big for them. And then they also do face up Nezuko Gang, who are the team 2 games ahead of them. So for Neptunium, this is a very big last week for them. It is mostly for every team. But I think this is the biggest crucial week for any team, as they have to take games here if they want to crawl into that top 6. And getting a win on Nezuko Gang might well cement that W, unless the Nezuko Gang, get a really good result onto Apprentices, which could be an upset, because Apprentices, they're only 3 games behind Nezuko Gang, so anything could happen there. But also we've got Pyromancers and Shrine, only 4 games separating them apart, also with Glacier obviously tying with Shrine, and so we've got the Glacier matchup of Parthenais, which is a pretty tough one here. 3rd versus 4th, 1 game difference, so that's going to be a big fixture there. And then obviously also Pyromancers and Shrine, if I didn't mention that one, but I might have. But either way, there's quite a few matchups here for the top 4 teams.
So yeah, top 2 facing each other, 6th and 7th facing each other. It's always a scary prospect, going up against the guys that you need to beat, that you need to get above. I think they need at least they actually need a 4-0, because they've got a 2-game gap, unless they win on head-to-head. So that'll be tough for them. But what could be even tougher on the other side? Ignis, some of these fixtures look spicy, Sennji.
Oh, many of them do. Many of them do. And I think for this conference, I have my eyes on the battle for 2nd place, if we want to name it like that. We've got Fearless Delta and Overrule both facing Scorn, so a indirect confrontation between the teams to see who can do better against the same team. And then a little bit of an edge for Fearless Delta as they face 5th place, and Overrule faces 3rd place, but 4th place. But that is such a small difference that I really think it comes down to which of those teams is going to perform better next week, and even with the potential of an upset by Helium, because if Masai managed to win against Overrule, and then their game versus Crusaders, they might be taking over and go into second place themselves. And then obviously we've got a lot of games again who are going to be in that play-in clutch position spot. We've got which did I sell? Crusaders versus Luna Atlas. We've got Zion versus Luna Atlas. There's not versus Luna Atlas, my bad. But yeah, we've got so many games in those in the category 5th to 9th that it's just going to be very close overall.
So it looks that way. The crucible of competition.
And we've got a first update
We have a
from
result.
the result board. Zion got a forfeit win versus Luna Atlas. So Zion catapult themselves into temporary 5th place with that result. Obviously unfortunate that it was an FF.
Yeah, it's big. They could have had a chance to get a win there, Luna Atlas, against one of the teams so close to them in the table, but a boon for Zion. I'm sure they'll be glad of it, regardless of how they got it. As a tentative position up there in 5th, still going to have to perform in their next match against, I'm not entirely sure who it is, but the fact, wait, of course I'm sure who it is. I'm looking at it. I can see it. It's against Cerebrus, so that's going to be a tough up against first position. This is a massive result for them to get. And yeah, as I was saying, that every all these teams fighting for second spot, only one can get it. Who's going to handle the pressure, and who's gonna crumble under it? We shall have to see. But speaking of pressure, now rising up to the rival tier, into the third of this system. Looking at this, I mean, but do you think that because the way that these teams stack up together, there's going to be some fireworks? Or is it kind of a cut and dry situation?
There is going to be some fireworks. I mean, on the subject of fireworks, this was a big week for Journeyman. They went 7-1, and they took out Concerto in a 4-0 sweep. A team that's been, fighting and sneaking up on that second place. So to get a 4-0 sweep on Concerto is very, very good for them. We got Rev with the 415 points per game. And 3 of the games were all 2-1, except from one of them that were a 2-0. So the games were close. Concerto, they almost edged out the games, but they just couldn't quite get one. So Journeyman got a 4-0 sweep there. Then obviously they got their other result, getting the 3-1 onto Montbéliard. So beating 2 teams who have been fighting top 4 all season long. So for Journeyman, this is very good for them. And then I picked out Blizzard getting the 4-0 sweep onto Sanctum. Sanctum, early season, they looked like a pretty strong team. A lot of players, gave them a lot of respect. And, people still do. But we can't maybe expect Sanctum to be a little bit higher. So a 4-0 sweep from Blizzard is a pretty strong result there. Just claiming that dominance in the first place that we all know of. And then the final one I did pick out was Zyphos getting a 4-0 onto Uranum. Uranum side with this new signing with Luke, the team's been, doing pretty decent. But they got swept by Zyphos. But obviously, before I get complained at by the players of the team, they did have a challenger sub. So, maybe that does play a part. But, you maybe expect a game or two, playing a team in the same kind of position as you in the standings. But Hera popped off for Zyphos with a 472 point per game. But yeah, either way, it's a very, very good week for Journeyman.
And it's insane. I'm looking at it now. Only 3 of the results weren't sweeps. There's so many 4-0s for rival Glacis in week 8. It's kind of crazy to look at, but is there anything crazier to see on the other side, on Ignis, Sennji, or is this one that we were maybe expected to see some of these results? More so than Glacis.
To be honest, I don't think it's as crazy with the sweeps uh, as in Glacis,
Just a couple, I think.
one of the very interesting battles we are kind of looking at here on the RSCast is the battle for who gets second to last place in Ignis in Rival, and it is a fierce battle between Luna Hydra and Overkill. They faced off versus each other this week, and it was a draw. So they can't make it out themselves in the direct duel. They now gotta make it out in the away duels. Then we've had Fearless Charlie coming out, sweeping or at least taking a victory over Sentinels with a 3-1. First versus second, always a good game to watch. And then we've had Unity taking down Yoruba with 3-1, kind of closing the gap to from Unity's perspective to Yoruba to this potentially getting into the playoff spots and not just play-in spots.
Just looking at it there, I think there's a slight error on the graphic. I think it was Neri 4-0'd Toxin there. I'm looking at the score reporting properly. So 3 4-0s this week actually for last week for Ignis rival. So it's just saying.
I think that was
So
actually a postponed game,
oh, okay.
so that
I was
hasn't been
looking at it
played
wrong.
last week. That's whenever it's automated, it's coming up as a 0-0. But I
Yeah,
think
that's
they
that's
could
what I
be
was
playing at the
wondering.
moment.
If they're playing right now, yeah. We'll just have to see how that comes out. I'm sure they'll crop up in a moment when we get to it. But start off with we go into the standings now to see where all of them have ended up. Any movers or shakers in week 8, but on the Glaciers side?
Well, we do see a little bit of movement as we go to the play-in section, but obviously starting from the top, Blizzard and Sorcerers still remaining in that top 2 position. Only a 3-game gap for these two sides, so it's still possible for Sorcerers. They did get that 6-2 week, so they hold that top 2 for now. But Concerto 8 games behind. Mathematically, it is possible, but Sorcerers just need one individual game to 100% secure that top 2. But we've got Concerto, Montbéliard, Sanctum, Journeyman, Uranum, and Zyphos all ever so close. We only have a gap of 5 games here from 8th all the way to 3rd, so anyone here can really take any position, and it's going to be a massive dogfight for that top 6. And obviously, Journeyman, I believe they might have slipped from 7th in last week. So, that 7-1 week really solidified them to get that boost onto Uranum. But either way, Journeyman and Uranum have been fighting back and forth for the 6th spot. So it's going to be crazy to see how they, battle it out in the last week. But Arena Tribe and obviously Erebos, unfortunately, can't make it into that playing spot. But as we always say, they can be those teams to take games off the others and shake things up.
And you always love to see a scrap in every part of the table, of course. As we go up the tiers, we start to see maybe 1 or 2 teams break away, the outliers, the real big dogs, top stacks of these conferences and these tiers. Blizzard and Sorcerers will be it for Glacies. But do we see the same thing on the Ignis side, Sennji, or is it a little bit closer towards the top?
I think we see a relatively similar thing over here in the Ignis side. We see Phyllis Charlie and Sentinels being in a relatively comfortable position. Yes, it is a bit closer, both Yoruba and Unity. If their last week goes good and both Phyllis Charlie and Sentinels mess up their games, they have the potential to get up there. Then we've got Toxin in a relatively comfortable position, obviously still being game down that game versus Neri, so could be even higher up depending on the result tonight. But then we have a kind of 3-way fight for this 6th spot. If Neri, let's say, draw today versus Toxin, there would be a 3-way tie for 6th place, and that's going to be where the interest is going to be for last week. The rest seems relatively settled.
Well, we should hope for their sake that they're settled into those top 2 spots. I'm sure Buddy will be looking at that quite quite keenly. Phyllis Charlie's position is not secured just yet. Sentinels hot on their heels and be looking to take that spot. But I do actually want some predictions from you, but on the on what Phyllis Charlie are capable of in this final week. The fixture's coming up now.
I don't want to say anything too confident because I don't want to jinx it. But I will say, obviously, the plan is to finish first, but I don't want to jinx myself. So we'll just see how it goes. All right, we'll just see how it goes.
Okay. We're looking at how we're trying to figure out these fixtures. We're getting new results coming in already, and it's looking like they're struggling. Some of these teams, some of them are doing well, but some just got to lose in order for another to win. So, is there anything that might affect further situations here, Butter?
I was happy that I was first, and I hear that my team gets swept in the master tier. So that just killed my vibe, but obviously we'll see how that affects later on. But obviously the Glacies conference here, we've got some pretty good matchups as always. Obviously Blizzard and Sorceress, they've got to get their key games to kind of solidify that top two. Obviously Blizzard already have, but mainly for Sorceress. But we got here Blizzard versus Journeyman. Journeyman, they've just bounced off this 7-1 week. They've took down third and fourth, so I'm quite excited to see how Journeyman can perform in this series. And I think Blizzard are using a sub. I could be wrong, but I know they're using a sub this week. It might be the Journeyman series, it might not be. I could be wrong, but either way, that'd be good for Journeyman if they can get some games on the top teams. And obviously, I kind of want to look at Montbelliard here. Recently in their last 5 series, they've had a draw, a win, and 3 Ls back to back. So this is really got to be their bounce back week. And I mean, well, it has to, as it is the last week. But they play Erebos, they play you, Sennji, so maybe you can, maybe slide them the play in secured. But they got Zyphos, a pretty good team. They're out of the play-in position by 2 wins, so it's very possible for Zyphos to bounce back there because we did have a Marbs. He actually subbed up in the elite tier last week, which we'll get into. So hopefully he can kind of pop off in rival this week.
Hopefully he can, for their sake at the very least. But over on the Ignis side with Sennji, tell me a little bit about some of these fixtures.
I just got a ping with another result. This time it's been my master team, and
I was going to save it for later.
Compared to Buddha's reaction, I'm pretty glad about this one.
I'm glad you're happy.
It's been a 3-1 victory for Hades over Xiu or Xiu. But yeah, back to Ignis in Rival. Coming back to your question before, Vekta to Buddha with a prediction for Fearless Charlie. He didn't want to give you one. I will say it's going to be at least a 7-1 week for Fearless Charlie. I say this because on paper they have the easiest possible week. I don't say this to downplay Luna or overkill, but they're currently both fighting for who gets 9th place, and Fearless Charlie has been really strong this season, and I doubt that they will falter this week, and maybe they'll give 1 game away, but I don't think it's going to be more that they're going to lose. Then we've got Sentinels who have to try to beat this Fearless Charlie's performance this week. They get to play Toxin and Neri. Both of them are currently looking to secure, at least definitely Neri looking to secure their place in the play-in, so they will face 2 teams that are fighting for their play-in lives, and I think that's definitely going to be a harder week for them. Then we've got very interesting matchups with, for example, Pandora, Yoruba, Pandora versus Neri especially. Then Nitrogen is facing Unity, which is all of those teams are trying to get that last victory for making the play-ins, and I think it's going to be interesting again.
It was a good thing to bring out that Sentinels versus Toxin and Neri, both Toxin and Neri with arguably better results recently. Sentinels on two loss streaks, so looking to regain some form for the final 8 games. Hopefully for their sake they can do it. But now we move on and upwards into the elite tier, one of the most competitive that we've ever seen in RSC. Quite a lot season on season. We see these tables go all over the place, absolutely mental sometimes, and some of these results they seem to be following the pattern, but over in Glacis.
Yeah. Wait, we're on elite standings. I'm confused now.
Went to rival, then to elite. Oh wait, we are on elite standings. Glacis week 8. That's what's on stream. I'm looking at it.
Well, whilst we get it fixed, there is actually a result. Arcus, they got a 3-1 onto the top team, Cerberus. I mean, for Cerberus, it doesn't really damage them. They've secured playoffs now, 100%. But for Arcus, that's a huge W for them.
It is. I mean, wondering, we're going back to obviously some tiers that we've seen before, and wondering whether or not it was going to be the case with them. Yeah, elite coming up now with the results fixtures. 2-2 for Megami Cult and Avalanche there. I'm not sure if that's one that you picked out, but is there any that you did pick out that you feel like would have a big difference going into this final week?
Yeah, I picked out Zalor's 4 sweep onto Saturnia, and obviously they got their 3-1 onto Thanatos. Sorry, Sennji. So Zalor got their 7-1 week, and obviously this is where Marbs, he subbed up from Rival to get that 3-1 victory, so it's well played. You know how they can still play with their rival player and still bring home these Ws. So for Zalor, it's a really good week, and onto Saturnia, it's a very good sweep for them. But, talk about Saturnia, they may have lost 4-0, but after losing 4 series in a row, they finally get a win and they do sweep Anju. But game 4 was an FF win, but either way, they got the sweep. And Limis popped off in this series, 619 points per game, just really stepping up for the team. But then I'll see, I think a recent result, I think Saturni might have lost, if I remember correctly. So unfortunately, that streak might be on a end now, but either way, Saturnia, they finally find their way, and hopefully they can use that heading into this last week. And then finally, I did pick up on Oracles. They got a 3-1 onto Rhapsody, which is a huge result. Rhapsody being a top table team, and for Oracles, this kind of keeps their hopes alive a little bit. But we've got Sezon, the only player to hit above 400 points per game, and he also had 10 saves for his team, but unfortunately, they just couldn't get the win in the series. And other than that, it was just Bladesmiths going 7-1 in their week, still holding first.
As I claimed it, Elite one of the most competitive. Ninth took down second. You can never guarantee that you're going to win a series, and you can't play down to any of the teams that are below you just because of their position in the table. They are just as strong as you. They deserve to be in the tier, and they could also deserve to take that 6th spot. But it's going to be tough. It could be even tougher on the other side, Sennji, on Ignis. Are there any results that stand out to you, or is this more, let's say, stable than Glaciers?
I think one team that has had a very different week in terms of their games has been Oregon, as they were able to, or they dropped 2 games to last place in overtake. But on the other hand, they were able to get 2 games off of top table team in Luna IO. So probably one of those draws felt like a victory, whilst the other felt like a loss. Then we also have yet another draw that I've picked up on with Arrows versus Vanguards. I think it's really good showing for Vanguards who are fighting for those play-in spots, that they're capable of taking 2 games off of number 1 team. Then obviously we had Argon with the 2-2 versus Luna IO, which I've already mentioned, and my bad.
Yeah, it's looking like some teams are trying to draw their way to victory. Maybe just stay steady, stay normal, average. If you're not losing, you're not winning. You're still getting 2-game wins. It has given them that 8-game gap over Fearless Brother, 4th and 5th there. So they'll be glad to have that, and glad to move on forward. Maybe even have higher ambitions to 3rd or 2nd. We shall have to see. Looking at the fixtures for this week, again, I keep getting that wrong. I don't know why. My mind's not in the right place. But hopefully, some of these teams can find themselves in the right place. But over in Glaciers, are there any big matchups? 1st versus 2nd, 6th versus 7th, anything like that?
Well, I can tell you that in a minute, but it is the standings for now. 1st and 2nd, we got that 7-game gap. Bladesmiths, obviously, pretty sure they did just get a win today. I could be wrong. I would have to get confirmation. But either way, just a couple of games here for Bladesmiths, and they secure and cement that 1st place, a very good seed heading to playoffs. But then Rhapsody here, not safe in 2nd. They've got Zalor, Saturnia, and even Andrew, and maybe even Avalanche, depending on the results, all on their tail. It's a very close one there. And obviously, Megaman Colt, Temple, and Oracle still in competition for that play-ins. It's the only 2 wins behind Avalanche, so they've got to hold that fort down if they want to hold that top 6 spot. And obviously, unfortunately, Thanatos, the only team who can't make that play-ins position. But either way, it's very close and tight. And the goal difference in the mid-table here, from 3rd all the way to 7th, it's nothing special, nothing magical. It's just low single digit. It's just crazy to see how close this conference really is in Elite.
And just keep being proven right that Elite is the one that shows so much competition season in and out, and a similar situation to most of the tiers, which is lovely to see that the entire league is competitive, not just 1 or 2, 3 tiers. Yeah, going over to the other side, the Ignis standings. Is there any that we might see usurping positions here, Sennji, or will it stay quite similar to what we have right now?
I mean, we've got a very solid top 3, and one of them will have to go through the play-ins path. Currently looks like Luna IO, but it could just as well hit Venom or Arrows. Then, if you look a little bit further down, I think this is for once in Elite not as close as a table as usually we see in Elite and as we see in Glacies. We've got Fearless Bravo and Argon sitting on over 30 wins, looking relatively okay. But then we've got Vanguards, Enclave, and Oasis. No, Vanguards and Enclave with the fight for that sixth spot. Could take either one of them. And I think all of the Oasis, Zulu, and Overtake group are probably out of contention.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot in teams in the different tiers that sometimes just don't have a chance because they didn't get off the ground running in the early stages of the season. Something we reiterate constantly. Every game matters, and it becomes also apparent in the final week when you realize, hold on a second, we might not have a great chance here. Still a chance, ever so slightly, but it's tough. And they're going to find themselves in a rough position going into these final two matches as we get to finally the fixtures. I'll get it right at some point, don't you worry. I'll get used to this. And we look over on the Glacier side. I'll ask you the question again. Are there any that look like there could be some upsets here, but are we expecting similar situations?
Upsets galore could be happening. I mean, straight away, I'm looking at Rhapsody and Bladesmith. Obviously, mainly Bladesmith, they've probably got this in the bag. They just need one game, but they do play Saturnia as well. So they aren't playing relatively easy teams on paper. They're playing tough teams who can challenge them. So for Rhapsody, it's just a big series in favor for them to take maybe a win or just try and get the games that they can to cement that second. Because obviously they do, of course, play the other team, Zalor, and they lost my brain there, who are only 3 games behind them. So for Rhapsody, this is a huge week for them if they want to remain in that top 2 in the last 5 series. They've only lost 1, so they are on a good streak for now. And my other eyes do go to the side of the play-in teams, mostly around obviously Avalanche, Megaman Cult, Temple, Oracles, and Andrew. No matter who they're playing, all of these games are so crucial because from 9th all the way to 5th, it's only 3 games apart, and into 4th, it's only an extra 2 games. So all of these matchups are very crucial. Obviously, Thanatos, you got Megaman Cult and Temple. Maybe you can create some upsets. Who knows? You never know. An 8-0 week, exactly. Sennji, you just got to sub up. I keep telling you, triple musty or something, easy.
Yeah, 25 points is entirely possible, but they're just playing upset right now. As you said about Rhapsody and Bladesmith playing one another. They've got the Wolves circling all 3 teams, Bladesmith, Salor, and Saturnia, on a win in their last match. So it's going to be tough for them, but 5th to 9th, all of them a draw in their previous series. That could go absolutely anywhere, as could the other side. Over in Ignis, any fixtures that stand out to you, Sennji, as well?
I think the big fixture in Ignis is going to be Venom versus Eros. First versus second, and especially Luna IO is going to have a keen eye on that series. They get the fortune of playing 9th place team in Zulu, and they're going to play Enclave, who are currently in 7th place. Enclave is in a fight with Vanguard to clinch the last play-in spot. And would you guess it, that Vanguards are going to fight Venom, who is in the fight to clinch the second spot. So I think those games are going to be very crucial, not just for who gets into the playoff spot, but also who gets into the play-in spot. And it's all in those teams, I think, this week.
Yeah, that is extremely fascinating looking at it. Both Venom and Luna, 1 game apart, both Vanguard and Enclave 1 game apart. So all those 4 teams have the ability to dash the dreams of each other, and it's going to be an interesting one to watch. That will be it for the Elite tier. Now up into Master. I'm a little bit more familiar with this one, so I might do this a little bit better than I have in the other ones. But over onto Glacies, the results that stand out to you. But is there any that look like they shouldn't have happened or that you were expecting to happen?
Well, instead of roasting Sennji, I finally get to compliment his teams. I picked that Hades getting the 2-2 onto Nocturne. I mean, that's a pretty strong result onto a team that's been kind of top table all season long. But D-Lynch had a good series, 453 points per game. But obviously just couldn't quite close out the win. But in this series, it actually started out in a 2-0 lead for Hades. But unfortunately, they couldn't close out the last 2. But they won their first game 6-1 and then 2-1. And then Nocturne won 6-3 and then 2-0. So they both had a little of a farm game and then just a yeah, right, we'll just quiet down a little bit. We don't want to, farm too much stats. But either way, it was a good draw for Hades. And then Phoenix got a 3-1 onto Nocturne as well. So Nocturne not really having one of their best weeks, but Phoenix, a great series for them. In this series, there was 31 shots for the Phoenix side and 29 for Nocturne. It was very close in the offensive department. 10 goals for Phoenix and 7 for Nocturne. And then my final one I picked out was Chianina getting the 3-1 onto Rias Legion. Obviously, Rias Legion being kind of higher up the table, you'd expect maybe they close this one out to kind of, fight for that top table half kind of playing spot. But instead, Evoke was like, nope, I'm going to get 422 points per game. The only player to do it in the series. So it was a great series for them. And Rias Legion only having a 2-6 week. It keeps them in play-ins, but they could have been top 3 if they just had a positive week. And obviously, got to point out the obvious, Zayu, however you want to pronounce it, getting that 7-1 week, still holding the top.
Yeah, some coulda, woulda, shouldas for a few teams, but I just want to point out one that you missed. Haven, their first series win of the entire season. They swept Warlocks. They were just above them, and they did get swept by Sub-Zero as well. But well done to them, and avoiding that shame of being one of the few teams that are still yet to win a series. B-Shake will be glad about that, I'm sure. Of course, unable to make 6th spot, but they'll be happy about that, and a couple chances for upsets as well. Going over to the Ignis side, my own conference. I know quite a bit about this one, Sennji, but I want you to tell me even a little bit more about it. What are your keen eye and your mind? Tell me about this one.
I gotta say first, my heart feels hurt. I feel like I've been digged at with that commentary. But no, obviously we've got Perks having an incredible week. They had Storm and they had Dogon. On paper, Storm isn't maybe the fiercest opponent, but Dogon definitely is a fierce opponent. Going 8-0 in such a crucial week, second to last week, really pushes them up in the table and secures them the play-ins, and with even maybe a slight chance of clinching the playoffs depending on how it goes. Then we've got Carnage drawing Luna Titan, which has been first versus second, and kind of allows Perks to have that slight bit of hope to get in top there. And then I think one of the biggest surprises this week, Storm has drawn to this Luna side, and I think nobody of us expected that. Luna Titan dropping 2 games against Storm. Definitely not what they expected. Storm is 100% very happy with that result. And for the rest of what I've missed, I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, that was quite an interesting result. Storm versus Titan. It was a close battle. I know Louis personally. Obviously, I played for him last season. He'll not be satisfied with 4 draws on the bounce for Luna Titan. Not quite losing that chance to get first place, but very tough to get there with 6 games between them and Carnage. For my own team, Gladiators ourselves, we've been hurt by other results happening around us. We hate the fact that we have to rely on other results, and we haven't been playing as strong as we'd hoped. We've got one of the better goal scoring. I forgot the word. I'm looking for one of the better goal scoring attributes. We've got a lot of goals scored, but we can't seem to defend nearly as well as we'd hope, and we've been struggling for that. But yeah, going over onto the standings for Glaciers for just a moment to tell us all about it. But do we see anything? Do we see much changes happening here? I mean, obviously it's kind of close down there in the play-ins battle, but because of the recent results that we've had, some unexpected ones, do we see a lot of shifts, or is it going to remain mostly the same?
Off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure most of these teams have almost stayed exactly where they are. Maybe a couple of shifts, but obviously Zayu and Nocturne, they've been top 2 all season long. Obviously Phoenix, very close behind, only 2 games behind, chasing for that top 2 spot. And obviously all the way from 3rd all the way down to 7th is only 6-game gap. Obviously they got to have some pop-off weeks for the likes of IOV and Hades if they want to kind of climb to the higher side of the play-ins. But either way, they're still looking good to claim that play-in spot. But obviously, you got Chianina. They're on the rise. 27 wins, only 6, sorry, I can't count, behind 4 play-ins. So they got to have a really good week, but it's not impossible. Anything can happen. Obviously, unfortunately, Warlocks and Haven, they can't make that play-in spot. But they're just fighting out to see who finishes last. Obviously, Haven getting their first victory, so it's congratulations to them. And look, they can even fight for goal difference as well. Only one goal separating them apart. But either way, Race Legion, as I mentioned earlier, they had a 2-6 week, and they still somehow hold in the play-ins position. So it's just how they can go into the last week with that week.
Yeah, just barely, as well as we already know. As Sennji mentioned, Hades getting that 3-1 over ZEU, not quite popping off as much as they'd like, and depending on their goal difference in head-to-head with Ria's Legion, they should still be in 6th spot, as far as I'm aware, but giving themselves a big chance to go up into 5th, and also knocked ZEU down a bit, and give Nocturne a renewed hope of retaking first position from them. Over onto the Ignis side standings. Once again, Sennji, I'm going to ask for your expertise. I'd like to know all about what's going on here.
And I shall tell you that we've got Carnage very comfortably at the top, sitting with 47 wins. Then Luna Titan a little bit behind on 41, but it doesn't get really interesting up until I'd say Fearless Alpha, where we see Einstein and Fearless Alpha in the exact same amount of games, with being on 6th and 7th place. And gladly enough, we've had this result today come in, and it was
Not
a
so gladly
sweep.
for me.
It was a sweep. I'm very sorry for you, but Einstein taking that sweep, going up
It's
to
over.
35, going up to 35 wins, definitely pulls them further into play-in competition, and leaving Fearless Alpha a little bit in the dust, hoping obviously for you, Buddha, and your team that you're gonna make it to either Dogon or Dion. But then again, we've had Dion already pulling ahead a little bit themselves, as they were able to get a draw versus Carnage today. So very much movement already whilst we're currently live. Then at the bottom, I think Gladiators, Overwatch, and Storm all are looking very unlikely to clinch any chance of play-ins. But who knows? Maybe Storm can get at least 9th place.
I'm just holding back the tears right now, Sennji. It's fine. I mean, I was in such a tough spot watching Einstein and Fearless Alpha play. I don't know if a draw would have been better. I don't know if one sweeping the other would have been better. I think our Gladiators, my team's head-to-head against Einsteinium isn't great, and Fearless Alpha, I think maybe we're drawing. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, it's going to be tough for us to get back into that spot. Overwatch breathing down our necks, of course, not with a chance themselves of making play-ins. But yeah, Gladiators got Storm and Dogon this week. I think tomorrow actually. So some big matches going on. Dion up into continuing to be 4th, but just getting a little bit closer to 3rd. Einsteinium with that sweep, I think they'll go up into 5th, just about knocking Dogon down at 35 game wins.
Yes.
So well done to them. We'll have to see how they do in the next few, and we can look at those now. The fixtures coming up for this week. Obviously, we've had a few of them already. One over in Glacis and this a few over in Ignis as well. So, besides the ones that have already happened, Buddha, do you think there's any that stand out here that could really shake up the table going into these playoffs?
Oh, of course, but just before I get into it, if I'm correct, I think the top 6 for Ignis are guaranteed if Dogon take 1 or 2 more games, I think, because obviously Dogon got 2, and obviously Fearless Alpha got swept, so we can't catch up. So I think all those teams are guaranteed.
Make sure they can't do it.
Yeah, so if you want to help a brother out, but either way.
1 or 2 games to Dogon to secure claims.
But either way, it's congratulations to them. I hate you guys. But anyway, Glaciers Conference, as you can see here, the matchups. We've got some obviously crucial ones as always. Obviously, Sub-Zero playing Rias Legion, a 4th and 5th table team. Only 1 game separating these two teams. Sub-Zero having 2 wins in the last 2 series. Obviously, one was an FF, but they did get a win as well. Rias Legion losing the last 2. So it's going to be interesting to see how those teams kind of bounce into that series. But it's a very crucial one for them. And also Hades have actually got a big week as well. They play the top table team, so looking to get a game or 2. Oh yeah, you did win. Yep. Thank you for reminding me. That was a big week for you. Never mind. But Chianina is also a big series. Because obviously Chianina they need that win just to kind of hope for play-ins if their next series goes their way, and obviously if other results fall into play for their play-in road. Yeah, that's the word I'll use. There we go. We'll go with that. We'll see. Haven, they got their first win. You never know. They might win against Phoenix, or they might take it onto Rios Legion. We never know.
You never ever know. It's the wonder, the beauty of Rocket League when it just gets the pressure starts to pile up, the desperation sets in. And these teams and players really prove to us why they deserve to be where they are, or prove to us that they actually deserve more than we've given them credit for. But going over to the Ignis side, do we expect to see any of these teams break out and up into the play-ins, or hold on to these positions that they've already got further up the table, Sennji?
I think with the results we've already had, most interesting is going to be to watch Dogon. They face Gladiators tomorrow, your team.
Mm-hmm.
If they get 1 or 2 wins, depending on how they face off against Fearless Alpha, they're going to be secured in play-ins. So that might already be the most deciding game this week for the Ignis side, because I think at the top, Carnage most certainly is going to win it. Luna Titan most certainly is going to be second, and that will be continuing to be there. Obviously, Dogon is want to get the best result possible against Luna Titan and so on, but I think that's really going to be the key games to watch Dogon this week.
Well, I'd argue there's no guarantee that Luna hold on to second. Perks are
Definitely,
on a roll
definitely.
right now, 2 wins in a row. Luna on draw streak, and they do have to face up against Dogon and Overwatch, as you said. So it's going to be tough for them. Perks and Stanium facing off as well, and they get Overwatch too. So we see another couple big matches there. Hopefully no forfeits. We'll just have to see how that shakes up the table. But a win is a win is a win for a lot of these teams. They only care that they get those points on the board, not necessarily how they do so. My personal fact that I'm going up against Dogon and Storm as well. It's a big chance for us, I think, for Gladiators, but we've got to be on our top form because we really haven't been able to set the pace in the last few weeks. So it's going to be tough, but that will have to do it for the master tier as we go up into the 6th and final tier of the RSC Master results. We haven't got Balmanutan here. We haven't got the wise sage that is that man to tell us all about these results. But I trust your judgment, but I trust your ability to do this. So go ahead, take us away.
Well, trusting me is not the smartest idea, so you've already made a mistake there. But
I
yes, we are
apologize.
here in the Premier Tier now. Obviously, we had Lunar Esports. They remain unbeaten ever since last season as well, getting the 3-1 onto the Odyssey. All Lunar players in this series, they had 410 to 453 points per game, so they all popped off, and the shooting was crazy close. Lunar Esports 33 shots, and the Odyssey had 32. But Lunar Esports, they just clutched up. They know, they just had the shooting percentage, putting away 13 goals, and the Odyssey only being able to put away 4. So it was a tough one for them. Then obviously for the other results, we did have we had Austrian Force with the 4-0 sweep onto a Hamoud. A very good result for them. Snowy with 453 points per game. But all of these games were 1 goal difference. So it wasn't a clean sweep. It was a tough one. But there was one game that was 4-2. So either way, Hamoud, they showed effort but just couldn't close any of the games out. And then we had our only draw here in this conference. We had the team name I can't say every time. Cagliari Calcio. Yeah, we'll go with that. I got it. They're 2-2 Centurions. Centurions? Yeah, we'll go with that. Whatever.
It works.
It works. Both Sennji's team, I'm not going to say that again. Both of their wins were 3-0 sweeps. So they won both games without conceding, but obviously the games they lost, they just, I believe they lost by 1 goal. So, when they won, it was dominant, but when they lost, they just fell short. And then finally, 0-0 Prospects, 3-1 finale. Enlid really popped off in this series with 473 points per game. And again, all of these games were 1 goal difference, but one game, which was 3-1. And it's just crazy, in this Premier Tier, no matter the scoreline, all of the games are always so close.
Well, yeah, that's just the nature of the beast. So many of these players, absolute powerhouses. You never know who's going to come out on top. I know full well how that Cagliari Calcio and Centurions game went. I casted that. I was alongside Hop, our first Prem match of the entire season, and it was an absolute banger. I had to remain unbiased, obviously, because it's my franchise's team up in the Prem tier. But yeah, it was a tight battle. Cagliari did well to get the 3-0s in those individual games, but ultimately series went to a draw, keeping it competitive. That's what you love to see from a team at the bottom of the table that had very little chance of making the playoffs, but is still willing to go against some of these tough teams. But on the other side, Sennji, we see a similar situation, but one more draw than the other conference.
Exactly. We see some very interesting result in Nami Brigade getting their first victory of the season against the first place team in Solis. And that not just a 3-1, but they sweep
A
as
forfeit
last
sweep,
place team.
importantly.
Ah, never mind.
Makes it less impressive, but as I said
Never
before, a
mind.
win's a win's a win, you know?
Yes, exactly. Still gets them their first victory of the season, so they won't be like other teams. Not myself. This season. Then we've got London Esports taking a 3-1 victory over Macau and LG Ultra Gear. And even though Macau and LG Ultra Gear have started off this RSC journey of theirs very late and very low on the table, they haven't been able to manage to crawl out of it after a very good start where I think they swept or definitely won the first game they had. Sadly for them, they won't be able to make it further than week 7 for Premier. Then we've got the Trinitas 2-2 draw to Dark Magic, and this has been a draw between 4th, who qualifies for playoffs, and 5th, who doesn't qualify for playoffs. Seeing them getting a draw really shows how close these teams can be and how close the table can be. And then we also had a Dust Soccer draw to Null, which definitely was more in favor of Null when it comes to looking at the table.
One of the best parts of it, Null don't have a series win, yet they're still in 6th. Don't sadly have a chance to get into 4th as they're 5 games behind Trinitas at 14. As you were talking about with MCon, it was an unfortunate situation. They had to fill in for a team that dropped out. They were just in an awful position. They're a terrific team. And I think if they'd have started the season actually, themselves on all zeros, then they might have done a lot better. But all the playoff positions in Ignis Premier already cemented, secured. With the London Esports, Solis still stuck in Trinitas, but it's not secured exactly where they're going to end up as we go into the standings for Glacies. The other side, what can you tell us about this, buddy? Do you reckon there's going to be any big movers here, or are we expecting these to be the final positions of these teams?
As always, Luna is always on top, probably going to stay there, only needing one game to secure it, unless obviously they win head-to-head, then they've already secured that first spot. But obviously we see 0-0 Prospects, Finale, the Odyssey, Hamoud and Austrian Force all in range to shift about here, 2nd all the way to 6th. Obviously, pressure on Austrian Force to sweep to kind of it doesn't even secure them playoffs even if they sweep their series. So it's really close here. It's all going to go on who gets what on each other. And obviously Hamoud sitting in 5th, 1 game behind, only getting 4 draws and 1 loss in their last 5 series. So they got to pick up the pace in their last week of league play. But it's very close here, as I said, all the way from 2nd to 6th. And obviously the bottom 2 teams can't make themselves into that play-in spot. I don't think they can. Obviously, they can get to 13, but assuming one more game has already got to be won anyway. But obviously, they can play for the upsets, and you never know what we could see. But either way, Lunar Esports remain unbeaten. But the question is, do they win their last series of league play? That's the question.
Which is love to see. They've been on such a hot streak, continuing even from last season. We knew how strong they were. Ended up going against that Flame roster in the grand final, and that was such an entertaining bout to watch. Hoping for more of the same in the playoffs this season. But on the other side, we've already discussed it, the fact that the top 4 teams are secured, but it's not exactly obvious which these teams where they're going to end up specifically. Sennji, as all of them still have a chance to take first spot.
Absolutely, there is only one question or one potential candidate to make a difference on which teams go to play-ins, and that is Dark Magic. And they need to hope for a sweep and that Trinitas gets swept, otherwise they will be out. And they need to make up the goal difference because they have just drawn this week, so it all speaks in favor for Trinitas. this
I
week.
believe I'm not sure if they can. I think the Trinitas and Dark Magic have already played each other, and I think Trinitas
Yeah,
swept Dark
they have.
Magic.
No, that was
So
this week's game. They just drew.
no, they drew. So
Yes,
the head to head is exactly the same, and it's goal difference that's keeping them apart. Well,
exactly.
goal difference within the series between them. So, well, we'd have to delve deep into that one and look to see how they actually match up. But as you said, they
Absolutely.
still need a sweep at the very least.
But yeah, in the end, if you're realistic, it most likely is going to be just to see who is going to get where on the table in the top four.
Hmm.
Because, yeah, the bottom four won't reach play-ins with the most unlikeliness.
Yeah, only 4 games left to play for, as usual in Premier. It's even tighter, the fact that you can't get 8 points, you can't leapfrog a lot of teams if you've had a bit more fortune towards the beginning of the season. But speaking of, who's going to show us some fortune, some luck, maybe some skill in the next few results? But on the Glacier side, as we're talking about, still some chances for play-ins for those lower table teams. What are we expecting to see?
Well, we are going to see Austrian Force and 0-0 Prospects. This is a massive game here. Austrian Force have to sweep just to have a chance of top four. Obviously, they can get 3 wins, but they'll have to rely on the teams in that fourth position to get absolutely swept and no one to climb. So mainly, Austrian Force have to sweep this series, but they're against 0-0 Prospects, a very strong team sitting in second place. So not going to be an easy fixture for them. And also, we've got Hamoud versus Luna Esports. Hamoud in fifth place, 1 win away from play-ins, but they've got to play the unbeaten team of the Premier Tier, so it's not going to be easy for them. At this point, a draw for them is the best they could probably go for on paper, just because of Luna's absolute record. But a win here would be amazing for them. And obviously, we've got Finale versus Cagliari Calcio. We'll go with
Yeah,
that, yeah.
it's getting better. It's getting
But we
better.
got there. We got there. Obviously, Finale the only team in this matchup to kind of sitting play-in. So for them, it's just a series. They've got to take this win as they can. They're playing a team in seventh place, so they just got to not throw those games. Obviously, it can happen. Obviously, it's Premier Tier. Anything can. All these games are close, but they've just got to close that one out. And obviously, the final one, the Odyssey versus Centurions. Obviously, the Odyssey in fourth place. Again, playing another team who can't make play-ins, but it's a crucial series if they want to remain in that top four. But the biggest one here for me personally is the 0-0 Prospects versus Austrian Force.
Yeah, I'd love to see that one, how that shakes out. None of these foundations secure for these third, well, second, even second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth position. That I mentioned about Cagliari and Finale. The fact that Cagliari haven't won a single series this entire season, one of the best teams that we've seen in the RSC, the privilege to cast over them, myself and Hop have in the Versus Weekly, and so many of these players on these teams as well. It's crazy that we didn't see them do that well, but we have to move on, just as Cagliari do, to the next fixture. Over on Ignis, any matchups that could potentially give us some excitement, Sennji, or are these pretty cut and dry?
I think the most exciting matchup is going to be London Esports versus Dust Soccer, because that is the only game where two of the top four face each other, and especially Solis and with Trinitas are going to look very, very forward to that series, just because that means both of these teams have to take games off each other, which leaves both Solis, who face Null, and Trinitas Esport, who face Nami Brigade, in a spot where they can gain spots on London and Dust Soccer. So they'll definitely be looking and probably hoping for a draw. Then we've got the Dark Magic versus MCon LG Ultra Gear. Uh, if Nami Brigade get a sweep over Trinitas and Dark Magic get a sweep over MCOM, that could get interesting, but as it's highly unlikely, I don't think this game or this series in particular is going to be too game changing for the overall standings.
Yeah, fingers crossed and touching wood for the fans of these teams and the players themselves, of course, as well as the GMs of these franchises that may be watching over their teams play. Now we go on to probably the most, if not one of the most controversial topics of the RS cast, the franchise standings, the overall display of where every single one of these franchises stands. Of course, sans Premier, it's just Master to Prospect is the difference. And we see some interesting points here. Symbiotes just about holding on to first. But of course, we don't see the movements here. I'll be back next week. Still, some places still left to play for.
Yeah, I mean, I've really got to give credit to Laroni here. Galamo Esports, obviously, they were never low down, but they've really shot up recently in these last couple of weeks, and he's sitting in second place. So for Galamo Esports, they're doing a great run, and obviously with one final week, they could maybe go for that first spot. Obviously, it's possible, but obviously Symbiotes, they've got that one series in hand, so anything could happen. But it's not too much shake up from what we've seen. Obviously, Arctic Frenzy, Zimcha, Fearless, Forge. Fort Temple, Dark Magic, Shaman, Sanctuary, all fighting in that top 10, very close to each other. And Overture, Element, Ox Gaming, and System Solaris, all very close, fighting around just out of that top 10. And then in the bottom part, we do have Waifu Fan Club, Luna Esports, Vault Tech, 9 Esports, Might of Hades, and Override. Sennji, are you just fighting for 19th at this point, yeah?
I was going to say it for him. Flip the table. It's in second
Oh,
spot.
yeah, I forgot he's
Thank you,
second.
Vekta.
You've been in a very similar situation yourself, buddy. You know how it feels to be down there, but we're in fifth, and you're on your high horse. You're all high and powerful, high and mighty. We got to give Sennji some credit. It's a tough battle.
It truly is. It truly is.
I can feel that. The hurt. But you've been great contenders all season. There's still, of course, the fact that all your tiers have 8 games left to play. That's not a guaranteed spot. You could go all the way up to, maybe not top 10, but top 15 at the very least. It just depends on a lot of factors.
As long as we get 9 Esports, I'm happy.
It's 5 games apart. Yeah, the closest rivals
should be doable.
apart from Override at the bottom. And as we've said many times before, it is just that fight to avoid the shame of being the last. Something that I didn't expect Override to be down there. Definitely for the sake of Brandau, he's one of the better GMs we've had, one of the most consistent ones we've had in the RSC for a few seasons now. So he'll be wanting to bounce back maybe next season. Still a chance, of course, should 9 Esports and Might of Hades teams not quite show up in this final week. But yeah, as you were saying about Galamo Esports, really stepped up. Laroni, I think, is it the first season that Galamo Esports are in the league?
I believe so, yes. Obviously, he's been in IEL, but in RSC, it is his first, so it's very well done to him.
There's a ton of experience, as a GM, and clearly shows there. Arctic Friend as well, up high, as well as Zimtra. We've got a lot of rookies, or at least very new GMs to the job, and they've managed to do really well with their teams and get up there. But it's been a ride in the week 8. We'll have to see how that shakes out in week 9, where it finally ends, and that'll be lovely to see. But we move on swiftly and suddenly to the next segment of the RSCast, the one that I think a lot of people love, and it's going to be the guest of the week. Can anyone guess who it's going to be?
I mean, I know we can because we know, but
Can I guess?
I meant it for the stream, the audience, so they can shout through their monitors and tell me. But yes, it will be Sato or Satao or Satu. I don't know how to pronounce your name, mate. But we've been in the season, the RSC for quite a long time together. I think all the way back to season 3. So it's glad to see you in the booth.
Yeah, we've been in our hill for a while.
Yeah,
a very long while. Get me out.
Don't worry, Sato's just memeing. He loves it here, absolutely. But yeah, I'm gonna pass you over to Butter to ask you a few questions first, and then we'll take it around the room.
Well, before I dive deep into the league play, first of all, how's your night going? How's the evening? How you doing?
Well, I mean, we confirmed first in the minor conference of major, which is quite good. I think that's confirmed now because we fought and we're like 11 games ahead.
Yeah, that is definitely confirmed. I don't think you somehow
called it minor again. That's why I got confused.
Yeah,
it's rival.
Major again. What is that?
Oh, Sato's stuck in the old ways.
But either way, also getting that claimed first spot. With your roster, it's been quite consistent with the few seasons. Do you think that really makes a big play? Going to league play from week 1, where you face so many teams that kind of newly bonded together.
I think it definitely helps for sure in the early weeks. And like me and Duck kind of just get along and we synergize quite well anywhere. So and then we just pick a brain dead monkey that's either Kairu or Wolfie, and then kind of let them just have the fun, and it works.
Yeah, I was going to ask about Kairu. How's it been? Obviously with the new pickup, obviously by results it's not gone terrible, but how's it feel as a team to have him on your side?
I mean, Kyra's incredibly mechanical, like really seriously stupidly mechanical. And it kind of covers most of the weaknesses that me and Duck usually have in it. And he's like just an upgraded Wolfie, really.
An upgraded Wolfie. Well, sorry, Wolfie, you've been
Fighting words.
degraded now.
That's
Well,
scathing. Oh my goodness.
That's right, Wolfie. Next season. Obviously, claiming the first seed going into playoffs, you're gonna have a good little upper bracket run to go for. Obviously, looking at the Ignis conference, is there teams here that you obviously look forward to play, but which would be your main concern of a team heading into the upper bracket from the Ignis conference?
Hang about, I need to find out who's in the Ignis conference.
Oh, the ego! He doesn't know who they are.
He doesn't need to know. It's good. He's focused on what matters, what matters most, instead of thinking about everything. You know, he doesn't see the bigger picture. He sees what's in front
That's
of him.
all.
Hunter killer, love it.
He
I
just
mean,
loads in the game. He's like, I just got to win. That's fine.
it'd be quite fun if Zulu make it.
Yeah, excuse me.
Zulu, I mean, there's a chance. They just got 8-0 and then hope that no one else can really win. But either way, it's possible. Zulu.
Okay. I mean, if you don't want a meme answer, then probably my favourite one to play will probably be Luna or maybe Argon. I like playing Argon.
Yeah, well, Argon have been on a 4-draw streak recently, so you know they might face you there. But either way, it's going to look like a tough run for you. And do you think, obviously, with your chemistry as a team, obviously out experiencing every team, obviously newly formed, do you think that'll be your biggest advantage going into that playoff run, or do you think it'll be something else?
I mean, playoff Duck's a different beast. Like, look back from last season when Vekta hyped his name up quite a lot in that. I mean, because we weren't touted it anywhere near. I think you all voted us to go out first round, then lower first round, and then even though we lost against Vanguards first, we swept one team, we 3-1 Venom, we reverse swept Sol, and we took Vanguard to a game 7.
I always believed Sato.
Hey, you got to have the belief. Well, that's all the questions I have up in my head. I might think of one later on. I don't know, but either way, I'll pass you over to Sennji. I'm sure he's got some big brain questions in his mind of his.
Yeah, I only have big brain questions, but sometimes they do appear like small brain questions. But trust me, they are big brain questions. No, obviously, you've been here for a very long time in RSC, and just looking at where you've started your journey in RSC and where RSC is now, how was it seeing the progression that we as a league had over the years?
I mean, when I started, it was season 3, and it was like 8 teams in what you call now Elite, I think it is. And that was
yeah,
it was 8 teams, and it was like literally it had pretty much everyone in it. It was quite insane. So we had people like Bob, we had the Hilliers of the day. It was all just crammed into one season. It was quite fun, but it was just like so full on, and now it's just like really expanded, which is really good for just the growth of the league.
Absolutely, and obviously you've also been a big figure in RSC in RSC's history. And one sort of question was how what made you go for admin back in season 5?
Well, I mean, so suggested it to me, ironically enough, and I was like, oh, I may as well. I've got the time, might as well do something. And I mean, I'm glad I've helped it to this stage, but it's by no means most of me. It's mostly Arch, Frizz, Sennji, Yannick, and now Monk, actually.
No, I think we can just cap that statement that it's mostly been Arc. He's definitely done I think the biggest part, especially in the growth with all the advertisement. But also, you've not just been admin; you've also been a GM. You founded the franchise, known to or night. You haven't founded it. I think Ens founded it, and you've then taken over. But you have been GM of what is known today as the Waifu Fan Club. And looking at what Hunter Sam is doing right now, are you happy with the progression Hunter Sam has taken the franchise you've once GM'd?
Well, I mean, if you want to go that far back, I founded Shinobu Tactics in season 4. I got Shinabazu on 2-1 minor. That was Arch Shire's Dark. Then I founded Waifu Fan Club afterwards, and we came. It was all playoffs teams, I think. Like for 2 seasons in a row, we were second. We were first in franchise, like 3 seasons in a row. And then it's just about rebuilding now, and I'm glad Sam's doing a good job.
I mean, you've mentioned you've had a lot of playoff teams and first in franchise standings. Currently, Sam is in 15th.
Where are you at?
Currently, Waifu Fan Club is in 15th in franchise standings.
Yeah,
If
but
I have my
how's
research correct.
Hater?
he's trying to flex on you right now,
Yeah,
Sennji.
definitely. But
I
don't
feel like you're
worry, I
ignoring it,
get
so you
used
don't
to
have to
that.
deal with it. But you know.
I'm used to getting flexed on by more successful GMs, so I'm definitely ignoring that for my own well-being. You know.
However, chat, if you do click on my name in RSC, you will see a GM of the Season award. If you click on Sennji's.
No, absolutely.
It was a
You will
different time. It was
see,
a different time. There was a lot of things going on. You know,
and way less competition. Way less competition.
way less competition. I was
Yeah.
a major champion twice. Sato probably wants to forget those times. We never had the privilege of playing together, sadly, but we did battle each other a few times on the field, and sadly, you didn't go up further into the master tier and the elite tier when it was the major tier. So that's out. And do you have any ambitions on that? Have you sort of accepted the level that you're at and you prefer to play there, or do you have ambitions of going further up the tiers? Is that something that you'd want to do?
I mean, I've got ambitions, but I'm not really playing ranked at the moment. But I just prefer doing the scrims, doing the games. It's just a much more enjoyable way of living right now than kind of like mindlessly bumping your head against the wall against ranked 3s, ranked 2s.
Yeah, that's understandable. Ranked is a difficult place to flourish in and to pop off. You know, it's one of those. I think some people might argue it's a little bit of a flawed system in that, you know, the ability and the talent isn't rewarded for their play in the actual season. It is a little bit, but it mainly goes off of ranked. So I'd love to see you up in Master. I think you deserve to be there. You've got a lot of talent. I could see that in the times that we played throughout the seasons early on in the RSC. So yeah, I hope to see you there, but I also hope that you do well with Bladesmiths once again and go on that amazing playoff run just like you did last season.
Oh, I mean, thank you for that. I mean, it'll be nice to see you up there. Might play with you for once, actually, instead of all the times we played against each other. It was literally just us drawing, because I had Ares and Ren just trying to demo me. You saved everything. I saved everything. It was literally us. It
I
was
hold
one
no
goal to
responsibility for what my teammates did on the pitch. All right, I just did my job and things worked out.
It was just constantly 1-0 games.
It's what happens sometimes. That's what we love, the competitiveness of the league. And I was surprised that you didn't join me, like up in Elite and up in Master. We'll have to see as time goes on. But it's been a pleasure to have you here, Sennji. Sennji, well, Sennji as well as Sato.
Hi, Sennji. I'm
Sennji
your
as
host.
well. You've got very similar names.
Take
Okay,
over now.
cut some slack. It's been lovely to have you, Sato. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us and to elucidate us on some of the things that you've experienced throughout the league. And I hope you enjoyed the rest of your evening.
All right, bye chat, bye casters, bye Arch.
Just Arch. Just say bye to Arch. Well, I hope people enjoyed hearing Sato talk. I enjoyed playing against him. He's a good competitor, and it's always been interesting to play alongside him throughout the league. But yeah, we move on swiftly to the one of the most, I think, popular segments of the RSCast, the clip of the week. Some of the amazing plays that we have throughout the league itself. Buddha sees them, Sennji sees them. I see them personally up close, but we have to compile them. You know, we have to break them down to the top 5, the very, very best of the best. And I have a feeling we're going to see some absolute crackers tonight.
I'd hope so. You know, I want to see some anything that I can't do, basically. Anything that's mechanical, that's what's going to be in here tonight, because, yeah, that's not going to be me. Sennji, are you in here?
Not on clip of the week.
Oh, you've got to give yourself the credit,
yes.
you know?
I got fail of the week, I think, twice already, so I got that category covered.
I feel like a lot of the fail of the weeks have potential to be clips of the week. It just depends on your perspective, who's getting scored on or who's losing it out. But we will roll the clips, and you can decide yourselves which are the best of the best.
I can't. Oh, no, you're not.
Nice.
Why is someone challenging him though? Well, those were the clips of the week. Obviously, you noticed the dual deadly nature of Pluvo. 2 clips in this week, and he's got, 2 out of 5 chance of getting it. But which one did stand out for you, Butter? Which one do you think was the best?
Well, we were watching. I was like, okay, Hendrik, nice. He's done something that I can never do. Then we saw Flo, and I was like, okay. And that's what entry is. I was like, whoa. And then Pluvo, I'm like, what? It just got better and better. I couldn't pick one. I'm going to need a little bit of time to think about it. But either way, it can't be an easy vote for anyone in the chat.
Well, to give you a little bit of time, I shall ask Sennji the very same question. Which one stood out to you the most?
That is a hard question, because as we started it off, that flipper set in a prospect looked like a flipper set I wish I could do. Then entries read there with the kind of Doomsy from the backboard. I love that one. That is my, I think, personal favorite. But the wall read from Pluvo, perfectly angled. But the double reset he then pulled off. Like, how do you go in 1 week? Do a super Doomsy off the backboard, do a super wall read, and then do a double flip reset, and how?
It's tough to say that the Master Boys have some tricks up their sleeves. I'm used to seeing it for my team and against my team, unfortunately, at times. Personally, I think I would go for entry as well, especially in Elite. I mean, it's one where we kind of expect to see mechanics start to come to the fore in competition where, players are figuring those things out, getting consistent with them, especially. We see a little bit in Rival too. But the fact that the defenses maybe weren't as strong in Elite as they probably should be in Master. Both of Pluvo's finishes were actually kind of slow. And as great as it was the second read through the corner, where's the defense? Where's the challenge? The double reset was fantastic, but he's just given too much space for my liking, at least as a defender, my personal choice. But yeah, we do see the vote slightly coming to an end. And just slightly in the lead, only by about 4 points, will be Pluvo. As I said, he had a 2 in 5 chance of getting it, and ends up being the wall read that takes it, just pipping out entry in Elite. It's unfortunate to see for him, but it was a great finish. They all deserved to be in the clip of the week, so they were all great finishes in and of themselves. But Pluvo just about takes it, and we'll run that clip one more time to show you just exactly why. We hope you enjoy it.
I can't. Oh, no, you're not.
Nice.
Well, you can clearly see there why Pluvo had the privilege of being the clip of the week winner. Some fantastic finishes. I heard Arch say it in my ear. Got some bangers this week, and he was entirely right. Pluvo proving to us why ZU deserved to be at the top of the table in Master Glacies. But moving on to the very bottom, the absolute antithesis, the exact opposite of what we expect, we hope to see, is the fail of the week this time around. As I said before, some people's perspective might be clip of the week. I wonder who it's going to be. Sennji seemed a little bit concerned that it might be him, but I think you might be surprised at what we see. And we'll just have to roll a clip and see what we get. I'd love to know who made the biggest mistake this week. And, well, I don't know what else to say, but, great redirect. The third man scoring on his own net. We're used to him having to score on the opponent's net, but he did it to his own this time. I believe this was first versus second, Alta versus Micah faction in Prospect. And, you might say in Prospect, we might be more expected to see mistakes like this, but it was really quite a stinker.
Yeah, it was quite a stinky one, but luckily it wasn't my star player, Gem. At least it wasn't Gem, okay? As long as it's not Gem, I'm not bothered. Gem is my MVP no matter what. But yeah, one unfortunate own goal. Just to think that's first, second. It just explains it. It doesn't matter what game you're going to get. Anything can happen in Rocket League.
It certainly can. I've casted over many matches where I had to say out loud, this could be fail of the week. It seems to be a curse for me at times. I see it almost every week, someone making a bad play, but that one does stick out quite a bit. Do you agree, Sennji, or do you think that was just a mistake by the third man, that he was under pressure? He couldn't really help it.
No, I gotta say, I gotta absolutely defend Gem in this instance here, because this clip just reminded me exactly of last week's fail of the week, where Maurice scored a pre-flip redirect onto me whilst I subbed him up to my team. So I definitely feel for Gem in this situation. You don't expect your teammate to peek on your own net. So, mistake by the guy shooting, definitely.
It's sometimes what happens. You just find yourself in a 1v5. You realize that, no, this is just a game of Mafia. This isn't league play. What am I supposed to do? And you just kind of have to regain. You have to move on from it. But it will be immortalized as the fail of the week for week 8. I can't wait to see next week's week 9 as the desperation sets in and it gets here. But that will be it for the fail of the week. And we'll be moving on swiftly and hopefully getting some nice people in these weekly awards. These guys definitely won't show up on the fail of the week, hopefully, because they were the best performing players in their respective tiers and their respective conferences. Of course, we'll be starting out with the prospect tier, as we always do, going up the tiers and figuring out just exactly who the best players are this week 8 recap. And as we see it come up here, will be one after the other. MVP starting out, Tani with 534 points per game. Blackie and Zakata just in second and third there, not quite making the mark. And Tani, as of course, the finisher, 1.86 goals per game. Kind of low for a finishing stat, but Paladin and Blackie just behind him as well, trying to catch up. Will be striker, Agirius, I think. 71.43% shooting accuracy. Again, Paladin just behind. Then Invariance in third. Playmaker will be Yannick from MG, the self-respective GM of the Sistema Solaris franchise. 1.38, I believe that is, assists per game. Jason and Fluoster just not quite making that mark. And then finally, Savior for the Overture franchise, Extelican, 2.876 saves per game. Quite a defense that they seem to have had that week. And then Krezes and Ban Manitan just behind them.
Absolutely. And as we head now into the Challenger tier, the MVP of the week goes to Twisted with a staggering score of 556.5 points per game. Then finisher goes to Enche, who gets 2.2 2.5 goals a game in the striker, and I may be responsible for that one. Ivelios getting 8 out of his 10 shots into my net. Then for the playmaker, we've got Bodrekislaw, who gets 1.5 assists per game. And for the savior of the week, it is Twisted with a wonderful 3.25 saves per game.
Impressive amount of average in the challenger tier, but up and up into the rival
cold.
tier now to see what we can see in the rival for your MVP. It's going to be B with 546.50 points per game, and Luke Unsworth, the finisher for the Uranum side, 1.75 goals per game. And we see Nines Esports here up again. Sefik, the striker, 66.67 shooting percent accuracy, and your playmaker Joris with 1.5 assists per game. And again, making an appearance, B, your savior, 2.75 saves per game. The whole main rival roster making an appearance.
I was going to say, just this conflict put in the chat, that's a lot of nines. It's not just Master that that the Nines Esports side seem to be thriving in even. But as we move up into Elite, we start off with Waifu Fan Club, the MVP, Rollback Noodles with 541 points per game. Quite a production. Spartax and Thomas just behind him. And also, Thomas thankfully gets himself on the Player of the Week chart. 1.86 goals per game. Great finishing from him. Again, Spartax in second. And then Blizzy to round it out. Striker will be Prem with 55.56 shooting accuracy. And just followed by Change and Ponk, 50% and 46% respectively. The playmaker will be another Galamo Esports man, Ember, 1.29 assists per game, followed by Minty and Skazy. And then again, Waifu Fan Club to round it out. It's nice and even with the franchises here. The savior once again, Rollback Noodles with 3.25 saves per game. Sezon and Flight to round out that podium.
Absolutely. And now we go into the Master tier. And here we've got Rufy taking the spot for your MVP with 575 points per game. As finisher comes yet again Rufy into play with his 2.5 goals he scored this week. And for your striker, we've got Chefo with 2/3 shooting accuracy. As playmaker, it is Cal giving those assists over to Rufy, 2 per game to his name. And for the savior of the week, it is Marvels with 2.5 saves a game, just edging out Let's QN.
Great to see Haven. They grabbed their first series win and they get 3 out of the 5 on the Master Player of the Week. Very impressive for them. But we head to the final tier, the Premier tier, where the big boys are in the league. And your MVP is going to be Psycherino with 489.75 points per game. And your finisher, Karka, with 1.5 goals per game. And Lexa appearing on the striker with 57.14% shooting accuracy. And your playmaker is going to be Lawley with 1.5 assists per game. And your savior for this week of the Premier tier is Tepro with 2.5 saves per game. EGBY and Enlid tied it up for second and third, almost getting that first place.
And just to separate the wheat from the chaff, we've had the players of the week. Now we find the individual players in each tier, the team of the week. And first, it will be Tani with Zeno in the prospect tier. We'll move on to Arcus with NJ rounding out that play. Linkso, Journeyman, well played from them in rival. Blizzy for Elite. It's going to be the MVP of Zala. Berserk is going to round it out for Perks. An 8-0 week for the Nines Esports side. And then we finally come to Gek in the Premier tier, the Luna Esports team that has not lost a single series for such a long time. A star performer on that side, as just all those players are. Quite a team of the week to round it out as well. And you love to see it, but you love to see all these players standing in such great places.
Yeah, we do for sure. But we now got the weekly managers, and I believe, Sennji, this is for you to start us off.
Absolutely. In this week's top managers, we've got Andre and Cillian tying first with 147 points in Premier. For Masters, it is Satan's General who takes the cake with 257. Formanangelo with another draw in Elite on 332 points. Rival is known best by Axlos and his 329 points. Bishake takes the cake in a Challenger with 288. And the man of the stream, the streamer in the background, Ark, taking the dub in Prospect with 206 points.
Well, all these guys know about those individual tiers, and it's great to see that. But heading up and over into the next section of the Fantasy League, it is your overall leaderboard in the last position. Well, it's not last, but sixth. Friday, 8,449. Andre in fifth, 8,509 points. And in fourth is going to be Marbs, 8,616. And in third, Arch with 8,702. Maurice in second with just over 100-point lead with 8,806. And Axlos in first with 9,208. The only manager to be on the 9,000, closing in for 10k in the last week. Well, can he do it? We'll find out at the end of this week.
It's crazy. He just keeps getting better. I battled it out week after week with this man last season, and now I can barely break into the top 10. I hate seeing these top overall managers every single week. Of course, Arch in third doing really well as well. They're proving their ability. But we move on to the Predictions League, the Lucky 18, starting out in sixth. Andre with 173 points from his predictions. Then on to Jeff, 177. Not a big gap between fifth and sixth. On to Larson, though, winding the gap just a little bit more. Fourth, 183, and taking home bronze, not just in the Fantasy League standings, but in the Lucky 18 as well. Third for Arch, 185, only two between him and Larson. Then jumping five more up, we get Yo-Yo in second at 190. And then finally, Marbs with the big brain, the 2000 IQ predictions at 222. Takes the gold spot. Well done to him.
I love how Mob's brain can predict, right? But in 1 week, he gets Savior of the Week whilst getting Fail of the Week. Mobs is just built different at this point.
Yeah, he certainly is. And some of these teams that we see in the series of the week are built different as well. I myself personally casted over this Enclave versus Vanguard's a pretty big matchup between these two teams. I believe was sixth and seventh in the elite standings before this began. And Vanguard's actually ended up taking it 3-1. I think it was just pipping Enclave for that sixth spot, or maybe they held on to it. I'm not totally sure, but they're one game apart. It was a fantastic series. It was a very important one going into the final week. That will be up on YouTube shortly. So don't forget to go and watch that one if you want to see some of that more competition in the league that we keep talking about every single time, because it is important. It matters. It's beautiful to watch. Beautiful Rocket League. There'll be even more of it. The coming week, get more and more streams on games on stream, and I think I'll be watching over one of those at the very least, and we shall have to see. But I thought it was a fantastic series, Butter, and it keeps Elite competitive as well.
Oh, for sure. It's great how this was the series of the week, and in the last week, Enclave and Vanguard are kind of the main two teams that decide play-ins at this point. You know, they're both fighting to climb into sixth, but they're both playing games that result on other teams if they stay in play-ins or they can climb up. So it's crazy to see how detrimental these two teams are in their respective Elite Conference.
Certainly are. And it was a fantastic match to watch. I can't wait to see what they're capable of doing going forward in this final week as we move forward once again to our sponsor, Lunar Statics. There is a £100 referral fee for anyone that wishes to let people know that Lunar Statics are offering £100 per caravan purchase to anyone who passes the details of a caravan owner onto them looking to sell. If anybody's up for that, then it's a little bit of money in the back pocket. Love to have that for just telling someone, just letting them know there's someone that's looking to buy their caravans.
I'll make sure to get my money, as always, you know. slot that in my wallet real quick.
How many caravans are you looking to sell? But
I'll just draw some around the local corner. But you know, as always, we gotta say thank you for our sponsors in this league. You know, without them, not almost everything is possible, especially funding the prize pool as well. Powered by Versus Gaming, Lunar Organization, Badass.gg, and HyperX. And I mean, what great sponsors we have here in the RSC. And you know, without them, it wouldn't be as at the top we are today. And I mean, what a great week we've had. And I mean, I can't wait for this last week of, you know, potential play-in heartbreakers.
Neither can I. And to keep up to date with all of that, want to go and follow our socials, of course, over on Twitter, RSC_EU. You're already here on Twitch, so click that follow button if you haven't already. Of course, YouTube, the same, but without an underscore to see those series of the week and some highlights as well. Instagram, RSC_EU to see some clips, some quizzes as well. I've been keeping track of those weeklies. And I know quite a bit about the league, so I feel like I'm cheating when I see those quizzes, but it's all for good fun, and of course on TikTok as well for some clips, some highlights. You want to go and follow that one over on those socials, and it's just about keeping up with the league. Seeing all the beautiful things, not only that's going on in the front end, but in the back end as well. All the behind the scenes, the things that people don't regularly see when they just go into the Discord. So. It's great to get on those and see what we can show you about the league.
I mean, but before we send off, I could inform the chat if anyone is even still interested. But we do have a few more results that did come in just a little bit
I'm
earlier.
interested.
Obviously, we'll start from the prospect there. We had Oxygen lost to Overturn 3-1, so that four-way tie has broken. Overturn will obviously go up in the standings. And we also had Icicle getting a 4-0 sweep onto Prelude, so Icicle kind of climbing up from that play-ins. And I believe the final one was in the rival tier. There was two series here. Unity versus Toxin, a very big series around that 4th, 5th position. We had Unity sweep Toxin 4-0, and then Blizzard got the 3-1 onto Journeyman. So Blizzard, they look like the dominant team in their conference. And I mean, Unity's result, that's humongous for that play-in run.
A provisional second place. That's crazy. And Excellent themselves actually lost to Underworld 3-1. Even bigger result, you could argue. We're wondering about that.
I also saw Underworld played another one as well. They drew to Luna as well.
Wow.
So Underworld finished with their week.
They've already finished. They've played 72 games now. And I think if they drew with them, that means they stay in 6th. And both teams are on 35 wins, which does give Overturn a chance to maybe potentially sneak into that 6th spot. But we'll have to see, as that will probably be it for the results today. If I'm looking at the match day thing. Oh no, Nitrogen versus Overkill is still yet to play in the rival Ignis. So yeah, quite a late match for them to be doing, but it might affect the standings. Who knows? We'll have to see on next week's RSCast. But that has been it for all of us. I'm so glad you could join us all for my first foray into the RSCast. I told you there'd be mistakes. There were gonna be plenty. I got ahead of it, and but I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'll probably not be back next time just because of my poor performance. But I'd love to see you back in the middle spot though, but.
And you've done a good job. You're fine.
I've done all right.
I was like that in my first one, so it's all good. Now we just need Sennji to try.
It's a new environment.
Sennji's just silent over there. He's just like, I just let these two kind of, crumble up.
You're doing absolutely fine. I'm getting.
He's doing it right though.
Realizing the fact I can go to sleep soon.
If he doesn't say anything, then he's not going to be embarrassed. He's got no mistakes to make. Just
Exactly.
let us do it all, buddy. He's leaving us out in the cold. But yeah, it's been a blast. It's been interesting not having any gameplay to watch over, to not analyze the game of Rocket League itself, but to just discuss the overarching thing of it all. It's an interesting new position to be in, and maybe at some point I'll do it again, and then I can start to get used to it and do it properly. But it's been a blast. Thank you, both of you, for having me, and of course Arch in the background for running everything, broadcasting as he usually does. So thank you to everyone for watching. We hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. And we'll be back next week for another RSCast to break down just exactly where everybody's going to end up in the playoffs and the play-ins. Playoff predictions as well. Oh, yeah. That's going to be fun.
It definitely is going to be fun.
And we get to look at power rankings and see how wrong the admins were.
Yes.
Get to
looking
roast
forward
them
to
completely. Yes, it's pretty close. Actually, I agree on that one, but we'll just have to see. As I said, once again, follow all our socials. Thank you for joining us, and we shall see you next time.
Bye.